Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to APAC North. It is our final play day. Thank you very much for waiting this morning. We had a slight issue, a slight delay, but we're all good. We're going to get into game ASAP, and match one is Damwon Kia versus T1. Just to remind you of the schedule, if you have not seen it: Fav versus Mantis, Fnatic versus Guts, and finally Cyclops versus Talon. That is our match of the day. We'll go through those one by one. Pre-show, of course, has been cut due to the time constraints, but it is time to start it off. I'm Medic, your host for the show, and with me on the analyst desk, as always, are Jess and Fresh. My friends, how are you feeling today, this beautiful morning of the final day of APAC of the regular season of the entirety of 2021?
I'm excited to see who makes playoffs to possibly go to the major. That's what I'm seeing, because we want more APAC representation.
We crown a team that goes to the major today.
I know.
And we crown playoff contenders, we crown relegations. Everything happens today, and I'm so excited.
I'm so glad it was left up to the final Playday number 7 to see exactly how it goes. But let's talk about Damwon versus T1. Our lobby's almost set here, so we're just going to go ahead and talk about the map for this best of one series. So let's put it out there. Damwon Kia are in the top 4, so they're going to be fighting for their chances. Cannot make it, though, as number 1. Only one team, the number 1 in all of APAC North, qualifies automatically to the major in Gävle in Sweden in the next few weeks, so a lot to watch out for. Come on, let's go with the map ban. Our lobby's set. Let's go.
There it is.
Map ban's in. T1 will pick, or have the last pick. They'll ban out Clubhouse and take us to Oregon, an all-time classic. Starting on the attacking side, Damwon Kia picking defense. Jess.
Oh, this is actually a bad map ban for T1. A lot of map bans are a bad map ban for T1, but overall, the last 2 maps left over, they had to get rid of Clubhouse because it is a high preference map for Damwon Kia. We all know this. We all know what happened with Ryan at the major, with Zofia, etc. So going to Oregon is like the lesser evil, but it's still an evil for T1 going up against Damwon Kia.
We talk about Damwon Kia in their map pool, and just look at that second ban there, Coastline.
Yeah, correct.
So they've been banning out Coastline all stage.
Yep.
They played it once against Fav, and they looked scary on it. And it's forced T1 into a ban that they might not necessarily have gone for previously.
Correct, they wouldn't.
And that's forced the map to be Oregon when it might have been a more preferential map, you know, maybe such as Chalet.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's kind of changed just because of that one performance that Damwon Kia put in on Coastline.
The T1 hype train, I want to call it that because they got a win and then they got another one. And that's...
They followed it up.
2 in a row, and they're only 2 that they won this entire year. They go up against Damwon Kia, a team that they played against a billion times in the Korean League over the past year. So, Fresh, is there any way that today could be an upset?
T1 could go to playoffs.
They're locked in playoffs here, Damwon Kia.
Yeah, but T1
they could fight it.
They can fight for playoffs, so they have to win today and then hope the Cyclops game goes to overtime. If that happens, T1 will be playing in playoffs, and you know they've only won 2 games, so let's not get too excited. But playoffs, major maybe, major and relegations.
Oh my God.
That would be a wild story.
That would be. And I think the biggest thing is that we've already had a success story with T1 now. Their roster changes, of which have been grandiose. We have PJH, most of you will know on the APAC of him being a caster, an ex-caster, etc. Fancy being an ex-coach. I mean, they've brought in wealth of knowledge from almost every area of Siege, chucked them together in a team with a gunner known as 11, and all of a sudden we have a pretty well-rounded team that has now put wins on the board. They're a contender. I do expect with this new roster they'll actually get out of relegations. Of course, we've got Sengoku and other teams in the national leagues who are very competitive, but we expect that this roster is the roster that they will stick with, even though they're a team known to just throw everything out and bring the new ones in.
They've had a lot of good good progression throughout the stage as well, and when they got confirmed in like week 1 of this stage for relegations, and we're thinking this roster could be gone. This could be, you know, once they play relegations, they will probably lose it and they will be out into kind of relegation land, I guess. But they've developed as a team, and they've looked like a much more complete team, not just a team that just relies on 11.
I agree.
And like you say, to the point that we're now thinking, hang on, we could be seeing them again. Even though they've got to play relegations, it's not automatic. They've got a chance to play for it. And I'm quietly hoping that we do see them again next year, because I think they've got stuff to offer now.
And not only that, I mean, T1 is such a big organization to jump into the mix. We had Damwon Kia as well jump in. There are so many huge and very prestigious organizations in the Asia-Pacific region, Talon as well, who are in the mix going, we want teams in Siege and we want to stick by them. T1 is stuck by a failing roster. Let us not, beat around the bush with this. A failing roster for stage after stage after stage, and they've stuck by them, let them regrow, let them regroup. And now they have a roster, I can say this confidently, that could come back into Tier 1. T1 can be in Tier 1 yet again and do some really, really cool things. So I do think, they're very lucky SGA doesn't exist in its old form, because Sengoku and SGA would be the two teams that I reckon would knock out the people in the relegations. Without SGA, now it's kind of just Sengoku, so people might contest that, of course, in the Korean scene, but I do think T1 has just gotten better and better.
And it's an exciting brand of Siege to watch as well.
It really
They're
is.
not just better and better, they're entertaining to watch. You want them to win just because of how exciting they play.
Yep.
It's not, obviously Siege has kind of a metagame, and they're outside of that. They've got their own metagame that they play. PJH, for example, I will harp on about him time and time again. His early aggression, his exotic operator picks, his exotic gun choices. It's good to watch, and it's very entertaining.
That's what you want. You always, something in your mind is always rooting for the underdog in these matches.
Yeah.
T1 has been an underdog the entire year since they joined in. And seeing this squad picked up by such a huge organization, of course, it is a career-making move, but sometimes things don't work out. But maybe because they have no stress on their backs and kind of just, all right, well, we're going to have to figure out the next few months and let's just make the best of it. Something that is, putting them in the spot where, like you're saying, they could actually make it to the APAC playoffs and say, okay, well, we have a shot to make it to the major. Let's go out with a bang.
I think that's the best case
That
scenario.
would be incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to win today in the regulation time is what they need.
So, they need a regulation win, and I believe, we'll confirm during the cast, but I believe should the Cyclops Talon game go to overtime and T1 win in regulation, they would win the head-to-heads and go to the major in that 4th spot. Sorry, go to the playoffs in that 4th spot.
Yeah.
Definitely a possibility. Like we said, Damwon Kia has already qualified for those playoffs. They couldn't make it to the number 1 position like we saw them in stage 2. So, hey, now at least they get to fight for their spot, but it is with the entirety of APAC. And actually, just want to take the time because, yes, we had the delay, and excuse us for that, but we're also waiting until the lobby's ready. So we're just going to talk about one thing very quickly, which is the APAC playoffs, the stage 3 playoffs of 2021. Highly recommend that you join in with our fellow APAC casters in APAC South, that is, and watch the games next week. It is incredibly important because you need to qualify for the 6th major. It is huge for APAC overall. We're hoping for an Australian team that could actually finally make it out of Australia to go to an event. And hey, maybe T1 will be one of the teams from Korea that actually fights their way through the playoffs if today ends up going their way too. And there's 2 spots, 3 in total that come in from APAC, the entire region. 1 from number 1 in APAC North, and then 2 come in through those playoffs. And it's highly likely that APAC North also is able to send somebody, but APAC South is no slouch. And man, the Knights, they could have done some damage earlier this year.
Unfortunate for Knights not having the best of stage either, really not putting themselves in a prime position to redo what they did to get themselves a ticket to the Mexico Major, of which they couldn't eventually come. And that was obviously a saddening moment. But now, the APAC South region as a whole, they've kind of flipped their rankings upside down. We kind of said that in EU as well. We're like, whoa, these rankings are upside down. What's going on? Well, of course, the Oceanic or APAC South region now has also flipped it upside down, and there are teams in that region who otherwise wouldn't have made the Mexico Major who are now in prime position to make the Sweden Major. So things change really quickly here in Siege. A little bit of practice, a little bit of tweaking, maybe one roster change here and there, and all of a sudden you're a major winning team.
Nobody can hold a dynasty anymore. That's something we chatted about so many times so far, and there's more on that coming in the next few weeks, so watch out on socials. But that dynasty that existed with Penta G2, nothing like it exists. NIP smashed everybody at Invitational and then get absolutely rolled over in Mexico. And maybe it's time again for APAC to start picking up the mantle.
I think when you talk about dynasty, I don't think there's going to be a team dynasty. I think there's a lot of people that believe there's potentially a regional dynasty going on, especially with LATAM that seems to be winning everything, right? Obviously, we'll see at the major should that continue. But APAC, if you think of the kind of APAC's turn is next, right? And I don't want to say APAC are going to win a major or an invitational.
Year. We're just like,
but the rise of LATAM, I feel like APAC are kind of a year or so behind that rise in terms of the siege. We're starting to see teams play a little bit more properly, should I say, more akin to kind of an EU play style, go for executes, play really good basic siege that's really effective. And I think, we're potentially 12, 18 months away from APAC competing the same way LATAM does now.
I'm just wondering whether or not, being so isolated in the world from being able to practice said aspects of the game, fundamentals, etc., keep up with this sort of, Northern Hemisphere play style that we have going and which is working quite effectively. Obviously, Latin America is, just leading the way with innovation of how you can play that and do your own style and it be applied effectively. But I do think that, unfortunately for APAC, and we've done a ton of interviews, I even did one as well, where players, the first thing that will come out of their mouth, we cannot scrim anyone of higher quality than already exists in our league, which is a risk for leaking strats to begin with.
And that's why it's so important for these teams. So we talk about the APAC North team that goes to Sweden. They will have an opportunity to potentially boot camp, and whilst they are at event, scrim Europe. And obviously Europe has got a big tier 1 scene, a big tier 2 scene, as we see. There's 16 teams in Challenger League, and then an absolute abundance of really good tier 3 teams as well. So they can get in as much practice as they need to whilst they're out in Sweden as well.
I mean, getting it really was a thing to see, a miracle to behold when all the Brazilian players were here in Europe for Invitational, and suddenly the entirety of FPL was filled with some of the best players in the world, and they were smacking everybody in ranked, smacking everybody in FPL. And was it Alamo that won #1 position off of literally practicing 2.5 weeks in Paris? It's incredible.
I remember because he was doing those streams from the hotel room in Paris of FPL, and there was a lot of FPL games going on those 2 or 3 weeks.
And APAC also had their way through it. I guess the ex-Giants were also some of those top players that were in the top 10. So it is incredible to see the talent that they have. It's just trying to mesh that together and internationally. It's so different because you can say, watching LATAM from home, where it's Brazil versus Brazil matches, and especially now where you have the entire LATAM finals, you're like, wow, this is incredible. But how does this fare when they go internationally? They play completely differently. And we talked about Cyclops at Invitational, where they were playing so incredibly well. When they're playing online, they're playing from home with these matches, and then they go internationally, and it's like, it's a very different team. There's no way to try to figure out. And I'm wondering if that wall can finally be broken, because Liquid broke Damwon. Like, they made it look so incredibly easy in their matchup in Mexico.
But Damwon learn from that experience, right? And I think, and that's where I say APAC's probably 12, 18 months behind where LATAM is. And I think that's when these teams get to the international events, they need to be using that opportunity to learn as much as they can about international siege, the higher level of play, practicing as many different teams as they can, and start that journey to learn. And, then the next step is then competing, going further and further. And if you look back kind of historically, one of the teams, or a couple of the teams that come to mind, Norengo, Fnatic, internationally, it's because when they were international, and especially Fnatic, they would go out and spend 2 or 3 weeks in Europe beforehand to practice as many teams as possible. And, whoever goes, it's obviously going to be Guts or Mantis from the APAC North spot. Hopefully they do the same, because it will propel them on.
All right. Well, I think it's probably time that we highlight some of these said players who are going to benefit from some of these international sort of encounters.
We're waiting until our lobby's ready, so let's use up whatever time we have. Jess, what's happened here with the top players in APAC?
Well, as you guys know, last stage I like to crown the victors of certain statistical areas that I think are some of the most important. Of course, I can't get them all, otherwise I'd be here all day. But I want to just highlight to you guys who essentially becomes the king of each area. And since we started the new statistic called expected player performance, all brought down on your screens as EPP, I want to show you who the big man of APAC North is when it comes to having the top dog spot in EPP. It's your man, Lily. Guts has been absolutely on a tear throughout this stage. He is the top rated in the entire league with 134. And to give you reference, the average EPP is 100. So on average, he is doing 1.3 times the amount that you should do as a player, essentially, or 30% more, I guess, if you put it in that perspective.
And he's not necessarily the star player of his team. That's the thing. And I think he does a lot of the industrious stuff well.
Yes.
Even rounds that he kind of wins, he got clutches. I think back to that Sophia stun, where
God,
yeah, and you see the KD is obviously very good. It's like near enough a 2 KD, high cost, and we're not necessarily always mentioning Lily's name, but he's just there. He's always picking up the kills and just turning rounds into like winnable rounds for his team.
That hugely positive KD is the one that's buffed that EPP considerably. But of course, if you want to find out exactly what encapsulates EPP, I'm sure there will be some content on the R6 Esports YouTube soon to be able to explain it to you. But there's a category that we used to look towards of statistics that we would say really explained who is the most well-rounded player consistently, which is a hard stat to get. It's cost. And, well, it's the highest rated player of last stage who just seems to always hit the top spots somewhere, somehow. Yep. It's our man Yas. Even on a flailing Damwon Kia at the moment, he manages to hit the top dog spot in the area of cost. That's your top right of your screen. It stands for kills, objective, survival, and trade, and it's percentage of the total rounds played upon which Yas is able to get one of those areas. You either do one of those things or you do not, and as a result, you'll either get a percentile of the rounds played, and you will get a tick in the box for that, and he's been able to have the top 78%.
So we're saying that Yas, in basically 80%, 4 out of every 5 rounds that he plays,
correct,
he is having impact in those rounds. That is absolutely sensational.
Yep.
And I think one of those things, one of the key things for Yas is he takes a lot of engagement. It's the trades and cost, and that's why his cost is so high. Even when he loses, he often wins those engagements, but even when he loses them, his team are there to trade him back out.
Well, I'm sure at the end of the day, I'll be able to bring up a couple of more of the areas, crown some more victors. Maybe I'll do the victor of the plans, victors of the clutch master. So at the end of the day, stick around.
There's a lot to unpack as always. And of course, our pre-show where we usually have the preset items that we want to talk about had to be cut short because of our delay. So thank you very much for hanging in there with us. We got everything back up and ready, and our lobby is set. So it is time to see Damwon Kia. They're already in the playoffs for APAC, but T1 actually have a shot at it despite finally winning their 2 games in the last 2 Playdays. Incredible to see. Can they be T3 today, or will they stay T2? That's the question. We're going to go to our matchup. It's Classic Oregon, Damwon Kia versus T1. We've got Hapanem to take us through it. Enjoy.
Good morning, and thank you for bearing with us, obviously, as we had some unfortunate delays, but we're here. We're here with the morning of some Siege. As they've already said, there is some stakes.
You want some background information?
Give me some background details.
All right, I'm also going to give some homework to the desk in that case.
Okay.
DK is, I'm not sure if they listen. If they don't, then they're going to get an F on their homework. Either way, DK is locked in 4th place for 2022. They cannot go up or down.
Bam.
They are locked in 3rd place for Stage 3. They cannot go up or down.
Bam.
This match means nothing to them.
Nothing to DK.
Whereas T1, well, they have the opportunity to still reach playoffs, and we could even end up in a 3- or 4-way tie, and for that to happen, T1 needs an OT win, then Cyclops needs to have an OT win, and then Fnatic needs to outright win. That way we would have T1, Cyclops, Talon, and Fnatic all on 9 points. Now, Fnatic cannot make it anymore, but I'm still wondering how the head-to-head would go, so the homework I would like to give over is...
They're still not
please
listening.
figure out what the head-to-head would be if we get a 4-way tie. Yes.
A 4-way tie is on the cards.
If T1 gets an OT win, Cyclops gets an OT win, and Fnatic gets a full-on win, there's 4 teams on 9 points. Fnatic cannot make it, but the other 3 are still grayed out. So I'm wondering who would be winning the 4-way tie.
It's a mini-league.
He
Fresh
finds
is on
out.
the case.
There we go. He's on the case.
Here's my pre-show thing. We'll talk about these bands in just a second when all 4 have come through.
Yep.
Pre-show thing, because we didn't get to see it, is predictions from us. And
Exactly.
we get the taste of you now. 2 weeks ago, nobody thought T1 was going to win. And they did. It was astounding. Last week, I was the one that predicted T1. I thought, roll on the T1 train, and they did win. This week, one more person has joined me, Des.
I think it's Des, indeed.
Des and I have gone for T1. Everybody else is on the Damwon Kia bet. It's a smart bet. It's a safe bet. But the T1 train, their first 2 wins all year. Let me just throw that down. Let me just give that a second.
Outright wins, yeah.
That's just that. 2 outright wins. There are only 2 outright wins from the whole year have come in the most 2 recent games. A turn of form that, okay, they're guaranteed relegation or playing in the relegation setups, but when that pressure's off, when they finally have this roster, when they have, as they said, a little bit on the desk, which is limited time PJH and the roster changes that they're in, T1 are playing well.
They're playing very well, and that's the whole thing, right? Yes, relegation was confirmed. That means no more pressure on the roster, and they can just play how they want to. But suddenly that pressure is back on.
PJH is like glitching out. It's cool.
Yeah, he's not playing mute. There's also no mute on the board, but he's still having some effects of it. Maybe we'll play Vigil on the defense.
Maybe.
That would be very fitting. Either way, maybe the pressure is back on, because there is the opportunity for them to make the major if they outright win it. And Talon, I believe, gets an overtime loss again. Okay, so if they outright win, as Fresh said, yes, indeed, then an overtime game between Talon and Cyclops is enough to confirm them. So that is something they would hope for. That needs to go to 12 rounds.
They need it. They need to have it locked in. They need to have that energy. And let's see how things start to bring themselves together, how they can contribute their way towards the potential of finding and fighting their way through. It is a lot of stakes on this game. It is the last APAC North Playday of the year.
Yeah, that's it.
Been a while.
Been a very long while. Of course, there is still the playoffs coming up right afterwards, but no more APAC North. You will be fighting up against the APAC South teams and the South Asian national teams, of course, who always manage to find a bit of a surprise. It's a very entertaining national to watch. I really encourage you all to go over to that area once. Either way, T1 entering from the small tower. They know it will be on that top floor. One of their pre-placed drones had been taken care of before, but as they are scouting out on the dining in the kitchen now, they will be aware that it's relatively safe. Now gives T1 a bit of breathing space to work in that bottom floor control, just to get a bit of pressure down into the bedrooms.
Now, one of the parts here that's obviously, I said we'll talk about it a little bit later, is the ban. Ziana as a removal of T1 is going to hurt Damwon Kia a bit, because they are one of the teams from this region that does play a similar way that you see in EU. Yep. Similar way that you see is that sort of entry frag. When you have big players like Yas sort of picking up that role, or Rin, it's a danger. And the removal there is almost a response in a way to the Ying, who T1 can play and have played, but also DK have suffered against more than anything, and I think they just want to sort of limit that play. And here's a bit of a limitation with an Iana-less game. Starting to burn your way through these gates, starting to see if you can get the swing on. She is an absolute sinkhole of utility. Katan's able to slip past away from some of that utility. The claw goes out, will catch it.
A second grenade misses there, and that means the claw is going to be able to catch the exothermic, but the second claw now has been removed. There's still going to be 2 impacts though on the side of Katsang. Has the opportunity to trick the exothermic off the wall if he does it successfully, but he fails to do so. And that means the opening is there. Tries to take the gunfight instead onto the wall as he falls back towards the white stairs.
DK playing aggressive here. They're trying to make sure they put as much pressure onto the walk-in cupboard as possible. They're well aware that it's being a trophy push, and with Boogeyman underneath, they still have some extension, some stretch. Yes, 2. He's playing on the freezer stairs. He's making sure he has a bit of an approach, as 11 is that bit of a drive. A C4 over the top doesn't quite connect through the hole and over the smoke, as they make sure that they have some clarity on the swing onto trophy door. The width and the burn as Rin is the only thing holding them down just for now. As the smoke canisters come through, the first fight goes their way, the second goes off. Arakaze picks it up, gets the diffuser, gets dropped from underneath. No, it was coded just on the flat fight, goes for the second on the swing and cuts a man in half. With Katsang getting one more, it's Woogieman on the backside. Even though there was a player underneath, they did not need it because the shotgun did more than enough.
Yeah, very good play there from DK. Managing to drop the diffuser in the first go. Very important, otherwise it would have been inside of that smoke. Just hiding in that corner with the cover being up right after. So it was crucial that that diffuser was dropped. And it gave the opportunity as well for Coated with that shotgun to come in playing to just blast anybody who tried to go for any alternative plant spots. And now DK, well, they find their first round in a game that is just going to be the very final game for them of APAC North. Of course, we'll be playing at the playoffs later, so do not want to go all out, you would dare to say.
But DK have suffered this split. They've struggled a bit. They haven't quite had the overpowering power that we expected them to have based on their recent swings on the international stage. They've put in a great performance. Neither have Cyclops, really, this split, but at least Amonkia have found a little bit of energy. A bit earlier than Cyclops did. They've been able to take a couple of their wins throughout the season and then a block of 2 in the most recent games, similar to T1. But still, it's not the confidence that we're used to seeing from them. Whether they're going to try and throw themselves into this game with all the pressure and the sweat of before, it might make the pressure make them, or the lack of pressure even, make them play more like we're used to seeing. Because, as you said, for Dam and Key right now, they cannot move up or down. They're locked.
That's it. They're locked into place in both the seasonal standings as the stage-wide standings. So they're just preparing for the playoffs at this point. Maybe even trying to go out with a bit of a bang, showing that it was just a bit of a slump they were in, but they're back on form now as Rin trying to go for the very first gunfight here, misses the opportunity twice. You have to be careful now, though, because they are well aware of the angle you're currently playing. You might just go for a bit of a pre-fire there, as Arakazi's the first one to find, and that will be Woogieman to be dropped.
Now, if that is Rin's extension, that hold and that exploration back towards the site, it's Coated that stepped in to try and offer some replacement. Obviously, the site is down in the basement, so all the time wasting, all the fighting that Rin's doing right now, they're not trying to lose their life, but they are taking at PJH for the second round in a row as the first off the board for T1. They've been able to recover the diffuser, but Rin is just refusing to leave. They're so consistent and happy to keep firing this fight on the other side. They're going to say, well, you're not having any of the showers extension. You're not having any comfort here. The pings come through, and Fanksy's able to punish them. A minute wasted, 2 players gone, but the thermite off the board as well. It limits some of the approaches that you can make now with the Mavericks still having hatches to burn.
Dare to say Rin might have been a bit too long on that challenge near the small tower. Eventually got punished for it if you stay on that same angle for too long, but still 3 members left on the side of DK. And all spread around as well. Yas having the opportunity to go all the way to the top floor as Arakazi's on the other side of well, the kitchen here, moving up into green and potentially even stage or backstairs, and desperately need to find a little bit more. There's still 1 man up, but if you look at the operators available, the thermite got taken care of, so the hatches are going to be hard to get rid of. They need to force themselves through these choke points, and yes, having rotated out, no, some of them are coming through blue.
Now, Katsang is in a position where he's going to smoke off and hold off Fanksy just for a second. Now he suffers. I think his keyboard was accidentally open there as he tried to get out of the smoke, but Coated, he finds the fight up top, has the C4, drops down and rotates around the other side. Yas is doing everything he can to slow them down with 1 reinforcement in pocket. They can lock elbow if they need to, and I believe that has just been done. Yas gets the lock off on the opposite side and the swing round, and that puts them back into a better position now. They have that man advantage. They have the ability to hold them off at a bit of arm's length as the pressure also came down around on the blue side too. There's just a single body on either set, and they cannot get a handle on these Damwon Kia players still on the defense, who are more than happy to play this hyper-aggressively. Popped and sprayed and pre-fired, goes wider for the take. That is why you leave that wall soft, if anyone wonders. And Yas locks it off to further exemplify how to hold.
Well played by Yas there, just playing around that pillar, which we often called the Shaiko pillar, back when BDS used to be unbeaten on Oregon. Basically playing it around the same fashion. Grenades coming in, he manages to dodge them and gets 3 kills on the back of it. Really stepping up well here, so well played by Yas. DK leading now by 2 rounds onto their defense. Meeting Hall and Kitchen will be up next. That is going to be the tertiary side. This is the opportunity for T1 to get a round in to keep their playoff dreams going, because if they fail to do so, well, then it's suddenly looking like a very rough defensive half.
Now, this is a team that is very scary because, as I said, what we're getting right now is Damwon Kia playing with no pressures, no stresses. They are just driving themselves forward. When they have been a little bit disconnected, it's been from pressure. It's been from not being able to entirely sync themselves up with the pace of the game that they need to here, with nothing else but to just play the game in front of them. They're holding their aggressive angles. They're staying out. They're making sure their presence is known all over the shop, which T1, who have recently been enjoying that themselves, with the fact that they're sort of on the bottom of the board and locked in there, they've met a bit of a match here, because if nobody cares, or, well, nobody has that pressure, then the pressure starts to come back for the team that can at least move today.
I think that's it, right? Like, they were basically counted out for the majority of it, and now suddenly they have the opportunity to make it to the playoffs, and that means they have the ability to make it to the major. And that suddenly is a lot of pressure that has re-entered the room after that, and that is definitely going to be impacting play. I'm still convinced, though. T1 have grown massively over the year as a roster. Of course, some changes came through as well, but they have definitely improved. I'm going to be very excited to see that, you know, during the relegation matches, to see how they will do and fare up against the up-and-comers.
T1, their previous 2 wins have been met and built by a huge amount of pace. They've been happy to explore the map and everything that it offers. That is something that I sort of highlighted a little bit just before when I'm saying that that's how Damwon Kia are meeting this so far. And so far, this round seems a little bit sharper from them. They're making sure that they're putting pressure inside the building. They're going for a bit of a stretch and a little bit more of a claustrophobic. And the pressure is hotter. The pressure is sharper. They know how they need this round, because if DK are able to pull off the 3-round rotation, then they might start running away. 11 is solo on the far other side as the pings and the tracks start to come through.
Take. They want to open up this wall around the corner. Rin tries to swing with the Elder, managed to get one. Just gets swung on right after, though, and that means there's now control of the meeting room. The plant's already going down. PGH right behind the shield. Potentially will be opened up with an exothermic soon as well to create a bit of an extra angle. And as 11 takes the gunfight here, he clears out one member out of green. There's still a secondary one, though, with a shotgun, but also an SMG-11. Katsang picks up that kill. Yas is down. 45 seconds and smoke canister still in pocket.
Gonna go pick up Yas. Obviously, the time is much more crucial than anything else right now, as Boogeyman has crept his way in around the back. Dropped by PJH, who was crept behind on the floor. They have that shield to offer some protection. They're making sure they don't overstretch. Crazy Boy with one more. This is exactly what T1 needed. Yas, obviously the man who was down, is back up, and he's had a heck of a season, but 3 versus 1, and they have all that control isn't easy for anybody. T1, they're able to find their first round. It's the tertiary take, but can they build behind it? Can they find a little bit of that confidence that they flaunted so magnificently in the previous 2 maps?
That's it. Ideally, they will get 1, maybe 2 more rounds in this half to really set themselves up well for the secondary part, because, as we said, they need an all-out win. If they do not, suddenly things become a lot more dicey. They need the other game to go their way because, well, I've just got news as well that the 4-way tie we would go into, or even the 3-way tie if Fnatic loses out, is always going to be won by Cyclops, because they managed to get all their points
in the mini-league.
From the mini-league. So that is going to be a very, very good thing for them. But yeah, it needs to be an outright win. If it's not, there is still an opportunity for T1. I believe that goes into play where it will be Cyclops that... Actually, no, that does go Cyclops' way as well. So it just needs to be an all-out win. There's no other option.
Well,
3 points or nothing.
They would know this.
They will know this.
They will know this. They knew what they needed going into this, and they knew that the pressure was there, and they've broken a little bit of that thick, awkward air of we haven't quite been able to bring anything together, because, to be fair, you know, they were able to pull off some of the starts. It was just cautious. It was a little bit lukewarm. It wasn't quite the sharp aggression that we've seen played so well. PJH, for everything that he's contributed to the team over the previous 2 wins, going down as the first body for T1 twice in a row, it doesn't make things easier. It brings that additional challenge. Having a success story, having that scratched by your name is just such a big boon. The Jackal as well, in the hands of Arakaze, another player who has been a big boon for the team, is something that is kind of repeatedly putting a bit of pressure here onto T1. They're opening up the stretch. A different take this time around, or at least a different start to a take. A shower is the first focus.
Just to make sure you have that bottom floor under control is such a big help, as Crazy Boy creating themselves a line of sight into the attic just to put some pressure down. It's not necessarily to challenge itself as 11. It's going to get traded out, gets coded before Katsang responds to him. The smoke gone though. It's a very good pickup there from 11. Of course, you wanted to see a little bit more out of him. He's been the star player of the team for such a long time, and you know, he's been falling off a little bit during stage 3, but the rest of the team has been picking up, so at least that is going well for T1. And the lack of smokes now, that might actually be a difference maker if they want to go for a push late on.
It was bold and brave, obviously not entirely sure what the intel he was working with, but to swing it onto Armory and to get into a fight that quick, you assume he had knowledge of a player there, maybe just not the sort of backup and support that came through via Trophy. It puts them in a bit of a tricky situation because both teams have now lost that utility. Coated on the smoke, who's been a consistency in terms of slowing down the pace. You're looking at the angles and the type play you've got to rock off here. That popped off.
Yeah, he got it on the beam actually. Didn't fly through and hit the actual fan. It was on the beam, and that means the opening is there as grenades are being tossed in from below to try and deal with some of the utility that has been placed. Now, the wall has been opened up, but we've seen that already once before. Last back then, it was a shotgun from Kota to come around the corner to actually stop it from happening. Now, he has been taken care of, so no more shotguns. They need to make do with their actual rifles now.
Using a grenade to burn through an Aruni gate is probably the cost of those smokes that we saw, or the utility that was lost from the pockets of 11 even, all the pops that could have gone through with that as the Gon 6 gets caught out, trying to get a bit of an opening there. And trying to burn off anything that might keep this from bouncing just around the corner. Yas goes a bit wider, and Katsang goes even wider still. PJH has dropped around walk-in area as Arakazi is able to battle back and yet again, once again, pick up the diffuser. But less than 30 seconds. Fanxi putting the body balance in their favor. Arakazi's going to see if he can stick as the fight and the impact doesn't quite have the impact it wanted post-plant. Suddenly we're in a 3 versus 1 and Woogieman has had to find his way up white stairs. The last scratch here, but they're well aware as Crazy Boy takes the first fight. They've got themselves separated and they don't need to take it, but they lose it anyway. Arakazi's dropped. The slow creep round, and again, all the intel comes through for Woogieman at this point. It's a bit of a split push. He's going to see if he can isolate just one of them, but neither is overstretching or over-peaking because they need to attack it together. T1 find their second round.
Both waiting for Woogieman to make the move there, and indeed, as you said, the second round to be coming in. Very important here for T1. Let's see if they can find one more. That is when that pick that you've made on T1 is coming in clutch. That's when T1 have the opportunity to really start locking off the game here and put themselves into a pole position for the very final spot in the playoffs. And what a story it would be. The team that gets relegated wasn't able to win out a game all year long. Managed to then win the final 3 games of the season, make it to playoffs, and imagine if they make it to the major. Like, the story would be insane. A relegated team to come up in Sweden.
The T1 train. But we're talking of possibilities, and we haven't really got it to leave the station just yet. There is still a lot of this game ahead of us. Bringing it back to a 2-2 balance is a good split. Yes, picking up the Warden. Now, whether they're expecting more of these smoke plays, which to be fair, we've seen a couple of executes now. The executes that we have generally seen have been behind the mantle of the smoke. The only one that wasn't was the first round to win, where they were able to sneak their way in and dig behind the shield. So, playing this Warden, playing against a game that maybe T1 feels is a little bit safe right now is potentially going to pop off. If anyone can play a pop-off game, Yas is often a name that we find ourselves shouting.
Yeah, he's been considered the best player in APAC North for a long time now. And he's going to be trying to take the very first gunfight yet once more. Inside the small tower, hoping he gets misdrone. It's the sledge to open up, takes the gunfight. Should have spotted out Yes there, and now you know. Oh, that's not an angle I would like to challenge because he's going to be holding it pixel perfect. You need to get a bit of support in from the rest of your team, who is right now just trying to deal with the top floor control.
Yeah, he was waiting for a drone to come around. He's just put a bit of fear into the pockets of T1, but note the differences as to when we saw them hold this before. They held it forever. Rin really dug themselves in and tried to make sure that they could keep some of the control here, and that's obviously not the story this time around. They've realized they can still put a better flat firefight down on the site itself. Slow creeping and crawling A hot ping means that they're trying to make them aware, and I guess hoping that they rotate up towards the possibility of the attic. Sort of say, listen, they've spotted you here, you've got a rotation up here, are you going to try and utilize it? They don't fall for the bait. And 11 slow creeps his way down and finds himself able to lock off the backside.
It's making barely any noise, but I believe Boogeyman has fallen back already. No, he's still on those stairs, and he's trying to come around the corner right here. Gets the very first kill to 11 to drop first. Boogeyman even dealing a little bit of damage towards Arikaze, who now I believe is trying to get the scan in to at least force the Jaeger to fall back so they can take the big stairs under control, but he swings even more. Boogeyman gets his second of the round, and it's a 5-on-3 right now. It's never to start opening up the hatches, but the damage has already been done.
I mean, the first was just great timing there from Boogeyman. Swung and put the pressure on. The second was a great play. It's a double. It's Yas, locks it out, and he is able to put all the pressure on the world on PJH, who had a problem of being the first off. Now he has the problem of being the last one left. In a 5 versus 1, it is even tougher than the 3 versus 1 we said was tough earlier. Sprayed through the soft, tried to find the fight, drops down to the bearing to see if they can get anything. Boogeyman at least finds one more, but that doesn't count. That sure does, though. Yas gets his third for the round.
Yeah, Boogeyman also managed to get his third on the round there. But that's 2 triple kills on the team.
Yeah, that counts.
Very successful. It counts in some way. But 3-2, DK leading yet once more. They've just lost it for a singular round where T1 managed to equalize the score. And now they're taking charge again. But considering they have lost 2 of those rounds, they still have a bit of free range on what side they want to go for. And the bedrooms will be it. Up to the top floor we go. It was a successful attack from T1 once before. They've also managed to fail once, which was really on the back of the shotgun from Coated, right around the white rotation into games. So let's see if T1 can find success yet once more. And I like the adaptation we're seeing. No more Thermite. Now we're getting to see the Ace, these Selmas. Now, it could work against them, as we see the C4 kill from Yaz again. Like, there's just no challenge coming through. The Nitro was already ripped. They had no clue it was coming, and as soon as it flew, well, Crazy Boy was prone, and Fanxy just started shooting at the big stairs, knowing that his fate was sealed. The point I was trying to make is that I really like how they go to an ace, especially with the amount of tricking that has been going on. You know, there's 2 Electroclaws, there is these impacts. However, and that's a big danger, is if one of them opens up, if just one of the Selmas starts popping, then that gives an opportunity to get the impacts through, which then get the second one off the wall. So that is something they need to be very careful of. They need to make sure they have that covered, so Katsang, something he likes to do, isn't going to be that aggressive with those impacts.
Boogeyman is on a bit of a roam over here on the small tower. Obviously, Rin is making sure that the pressure is high on the main door as well. Sprays through and hopes to catch somebody, but does not. Slips away, though. Isn't going to hold on with the fervor that they did before. And that, if anything, pulls a little bit more attention away from Boogeyman, who has more of a chance here to strike. The potential pop-out of a window that hasn't been tested as of yet. I like that we're seeing these changes from Damwon Kia. But that one didn't work, at least. 11. He swung in the same way he did before, finds a victim, and does not find the bullets of a trade. Is able to actually put down some pressure across Armory and blows the wall to give them a smoother rotation around the side of Trophy. Arakaze is keeping the lockdown, making sure nobody goes for a quick swing or an idea here, but there's only so long that you can sort of play that game.
And Katsang holding off the green door towards the stage, and Fanxy, well, he might actually find himself caught off by that one if he's not too careful. Still trying to take care of the bottom floor. Of course, has those grenades, could use them vertically, and as the next adrenaline surge comes in, it will be him trying to make a bit of a push now. Of course, is used to heal some people back up to full HP. I don't think anybody did take any damage though, so not quite sure what the reason for it was. The grenade coming in on the top of Attic, but it's not going to be able to find anyone.
Well, how are you going to approach this next problem then, T1? As Damwon Kia, they're reimagining their defense. They're pulling themselves back to a little bit more of a solid lock-in. I think they're concerned of the Attic swing and the potential that might come through here as the walk-in wall gets dropped another time. Yas finds Fanxy underneath, locks them off and keeps that verticality in their favor, but still, as PJH is able to lock it more, now they've got to try and swing their way up. 3 bodies on white stairs. Makes things very awkward, but Katsang makes things at least almost possible. finds the swing on the first fight and is allowing the rest of the Damwon Kia players to move in behind him. They have been able to rebuild, even though things sort of looked a little bit lost, and Yas is going to widen that rotation even further.
Everybody back on the site now, at least to some sorts. 44 seconds on that clock as the default or bulletproof cam gets taken care of. Now they need to find themselves a spot where they can go for a plant. Yas is on a very tight angle right here, making sure no one is going to have the opportunity to try and cross that one, but it's going to be some piece of utility to be tossed out. Smoke canisters to block these lines aside. 11 gets the very first good kill. Crazy Boy goes for the plants right here. Wilgerman tries to sneak through, goes for the pre-fire, misses the first. Oh, misses everything! Just shoots over the head, and 45 seconds on the clock. It's just Yas now.
Oh, the smoke came through in clutch, and the foosball table was thankfully very well made for T1. Another 3 versus 1 for Yas. Could not turn the other one into a win before, but is able to open this in perfect fashion. Finds the first fight. Got lucky to not get caught by the second there. They went for an extension and didn't quite get the full swing. Drops and pre-fires round, just connects, but there it is. 11 rotated off, took a new angle, and took T1 to an even half.
Just in time as well. Yas was almost able to go back and get back to safety to take another one-on-one when he had the information for the final player. But 3-3, I think this is a very good half here for T1, who now go over to the defense themselves. 4 rounds in the next 6 is what they need to go potentially to the playoffs. It's not confirmed yet if they do get these 4 rounds, but at least they did everything they could to make it happen in that case. It doesn't matter. Like, rounds don't matter in this case. Just win 4 out of the next 6. That's all I have to ask.
Just do it.
The round differential won't even come in here anymore. It is literally just a head-to-head between you and Cyclops, which you've lost.
Everyone loves an underdog story. Doesn't matter where it is. Doesn't matter what the sort of setup is, and there isn't an underdog story, I think, really, across any of the regions of Siege, as strong and as powerful as T1's.
Exactly. A team that managed to, in, let me see, it was 14 plus 4 games, 18 games, managed to only get 3 points in 18 games. And in the very final 2 right now, they managed to pick up 6, and this is their very final game. The 21st game that they're playing this year for APAC North, and this could be the ones that send them to the major after really not being able to get anything done over the last year. That just insane if it would happen. I'm rooting off for. I know we're not supposed to have favorites, but I really would like to see T1 go to playoffs.
It's just a story. It's a story that I think everyone can sort of see why there's a lot of emotion here. Damwon Kia, they're going to put the fight in. They know. A very big blow to the corner swing of the utility there, and that's a big loss for Crazy Boy, who was called out on a drone, and a great take from Damwon Kia. And that's the thing, is Damwon Kia, you also want to see them succeed because they're a team that you want to see succeed. There's, as basic as a sentence as that is, they're a team that struggled, but they have such talent, such fervor, and when they're on form, they're so fantastic to watch. They're a great, great squad that has struggled a little bit on this recent bout of Siege. But
I really like these long angles that have been created here by T1. Just the angles in the kitchen, the angles into the meeting. So I'm going to be slowing down the attack just slightly, knowing fully well that anybody could just pop up at any given moment and could pick up some kills here. So they really need to lock down the staircases. That is the first plan. Lock them down, make sure no one can come up, and then make sure no one is actually already above you. That is how you can make sure that these angles are not coming back to hurt you. This Crazy Boy is the first one to take some damage now. Has found out that the shield is gone. Has found out the ADSs are gone as well. But for now, no blue pressure to really come through. So it might not hurt them as much as it could.
well, they still have 2 reinforcements in pocket, so Crazy Boy can lock off Elbow if they want, but it feels like the rest of the pressure is coming round from a bit of the laundry and a bit on the back here. Yas doesn't quite get that Flourish Drone to pop off. 11 has it watched from that soft wall that Yas was able to expertly demonstrate how powerful it can be previously. They are waiting to see if they can catch Damwon Kia. And one of the problems that we saw from this split from DK, if we're going to talk about why they weren't quite able to hit the mark, was when they went up against Mantis, their attacks were exceptionally one-sided. They weren't able to diversify their push. They were struggling. And here, well, they're at least putting a bit of a difference. Woogieman just escapes. The hat gave a bit of the game away. A last-second reinforcement there of the swing wall to make sure they're a bit more locked down as 45 seconds. It's going to be a very explosive entrance here. Crazy Boy has locked elbow as well. They are battening down the hatches for the ensuing storm that starts with the EE1D quickly. Now, as the Flores drone is going to burn its way around the corner, Woogieman has above on the hatch. It's all smoked off and canistered with the body. The Lion is waiting to make a bit of an approach here on the Freezer side. As soon as this canister starts to go off, an E1D is the match response. Yes, no way through on that way, apart from a bit of an opening for an angle. Coated can't quite get the plan as the canister comes through. 10 seconds, and PJH finally opens it up.
Nitro, there's a Nitro!
DK in the Nitro doesn't quite get the lock, but it's Crazy Boy and Katsang with one apiece. Yes is doing everything to hold them off as they go for a new plant spot. Rin goes wide, gets dropped. They just have to find the man with his head on the ground, and T1 finally hold on.
What a round that was, and I was kind of worried, but also intrigued by the way where they, there was the rotation into elbow, there was the angles into the freezer, and there was the big wall that was open up towards the back stairs, but they kept 3 reinforcements in pocket. And normally it'd be like, you need to do something with them. You keep one at least a close of elbow. But as the pressure started to siphon down from the freezer, they decided, you know what, time to close up that freezer, let them work for it. As soon as they started coming from the elbow, we close off that wall as well, just like the back stairs. And suddenly they have to go through the choke points. They have to go through these doors, which are being locked off by C4s, by Toxic Babes. And as a result, they managed to get it in the end. It was close. It came on the back of 2 gunfights, which were crucially won by T1. But they managed to get it nonetheless, just by changing the site 3 different times in the round, which then changes the whole attack chemistry that DK had.
It was last minute. There's no two ways about that. But that sort of play and ploy of, it's open. Oh, no, wait. You thought we were open? You fool. You gotta be last minute about it.
Yeah.
And they're able to successfully got it off. They trusted that Damwon Kia would want to do intel gathering before they went for their push. They trusted that there wouldn't be somebody to automatically go for an aggressive swing. Obviously, it put Damwon Kia in a bit of a tricky situation. The fact that when elbow did get popped open, it wasn't a rotatable hole, I believe. It was just an angle that they could hold, which, isolates one of the best players. It isolates somebody that could be a big problem. And it pulled off. But also, this game has already gone 3-3. It's been an even half, and it was close. It was to the wire. One of those firefights went a different way, and it could have been a 2 versus 1 on the other side.
Interesting spawn peek here. I was a bit worried when he was droned out, just sitting up in the classroom. I'm like, please, don't play it for longer than you have to, because you're just going to lose your life as a result. But, of course, didn't. Yes, now trying to take control of the master bedroom. Going in with the drone, spots out a shield up there. There's also a Mew Jammer close to the door, so maybe, just maybe, they're not even going to be able to get the Flores drones out there. Fanxi, though, has an aggressive rotation towards the balcony. Not sure they have a reinforcement left. That is definitely meant for this wall. That as soon as the pressure... There you go. So as soon as they get aware of it, they just close it off yet once more and fall back into secondary positions. I really like it when teams play this, well, fluent around the map. When they, they just close off angles as the round progresses.
T1 are keeping them guessing. They're keeping a bit of a game here, and 11's able to find a drone, but Rin and Woogieman with the E1Ds and the finger boost that can offer here could put quick pressure. Coated, in the meantime, suffers around Trophy, as I believe Arakazi went for a bit of a swing round there and was able to put some damage down. The boost comes around, picks him up just a little, and PJH is here to try and cause some problems. Popped with a heavy gun and just pulled away from what looked like an attempted grenade throw. They weren't quite caught out, and this is Damwon Kia again, trying to find a way in. They're trying to build a route here, and T1 are just keeping everything quite chaotic.
And now this wall will be opened up, so there is an opportunity to go for games as Fanxi takes a little bit of damage, tries to go aggressive and rotate out, but gets caught off by Yas, who rightfully so managed to pick up the opening kill here. There is the rotation into the attic now, which they can try and utilize. I'm quite wondering what T1 is trying to do next. It seems like they want to go for a big flank back up the armory stairs, and if this works out, it's going to be massive.
But it doesn't. Woogieman is on lockdown from outside, rotated round from the opposite side to make sure that they had some cover. The E1D pops out too. They got the read that somebody was going for a rotate here, and the repositioning of Arakaze is going to be the next attempt on the swing round to just stop them flooding in. Crazy Boy at least opened something up. Katsang tried to flood their way in via Trophy Door. Yas gets revenge and another E1D, but that will be the last as 11's able to strike and scream their way up the stairs. 20 seconds, and they're screaming back. But it's towards the kid's bedroom. A pop and a ping of the alibi as Kota's going to see if he can stick it down on the close swing round. There it is. He catches the diffuser. He catches the second. Arakaze is able to bring this back round. 9 seconds. And they have a bit of a separation here. Yas is able to find their way around the back. The pre-fire gives it away. 11 locks it off. But Arakaze's positioning was the reason that round came together.
Well played by T1 there yet once more. Arakaze able to get those 2 very important kills. Of course, 11 as well taking down a line. That's the pressure from White Stairs gone, and they bring back that round, which started off quite well for DK. A Meeting Hall Kitchen to come up next. If you remember the first half, it was 2 consecutive rounds for DK, and then once the third one came through, that is when T1 managed to land their attack. So they need to make sure that that doesn't happen now. They need to get to that match point as soon as they possibly can to really keep their chances high to make it to playoffs, because it's starting to seem more and more like it right now. There is the opportunity. They are currently 2 rounds in front of DK, and they only need 2 more rounds in the next 4 to make it happen.
Only need 2 more, but again, we have to point out that it is close. It is so close to the wire. They just pulled that one by a heroic play that came through, and you know, when we saw the game open, Damwon Kia were able to take their first 2 defenses, and then it was a bit of a resurgence from T1. The reverse could happen now. Damwon Kia could very easily find a connection here, the tertiary site, and then build behind it, because they have been so bitterly close. Twice in a row, it's sort of been, okay, the first was a scrappy late engagement that didn't quite go in their favor. They lost 1 or 2 moments. Here, that was just punishment at the worst possible time. The late plant is that risk that it just takes a loose thread, a loose player to cause problems. And whether it's the early game from T1 of making the map dangerous all over the shop, as you've talked about, or it's just Damwon Kia trying to heat up into their attacks, it's a lesson we'll see most pertinently here.
That's for sure. As a tertiary side, it's the best opportunity DK will have, or at least supposedly the easiest, because T1 then would feel that their defense on this side is the least favorable, the least chance of winning either way. They still need to make it happen, and right now, the entirety of T1 is really popping off. Everybody is carrying their weight, and 11 and Arakaze, well, those are the main suspects, really making sure that these rounds go their way at the very final few seconds. Big tower take is what DK puts up with. We'll see an opening, most likely head up towards the attic just to create a bit of lines of sight, and then Boogeyman, actually that's left soft, so they can just do that with the Zofia if they feel like it, and then try and push onwards towards the actual stage. However, those 2 ADSs placed at the bottom of it, they're going to be making sure that the player inside the meeting, Crazy Boy, has a bit more of a safe space. Is watching on cams every now and then, so has to be careful.
Now, Heavy Drone Game is coming through. They know that they have the confidence to start to move towards the wall itself, and Woogieman's going to begin that process. The rest of the T1 players, they'll have a bit of an awareness, and PJH is making sure that he has the rotation to be able to long-arm these canisters if need be. Another drone dropped, and a pre-fire comes through. He's definitely got the connection, but so have they as the wall pops round. Fanxy rebuilds and restructures.
That wall's not completely opened up. Ooh, that is just the left side of it. They need to use the second exothermic. It's going to be a bit of extra time that they now need to use in the hope that this one will. Yes, it will go open up, but that's going to be the diffuser carrier dropped as Fanxy with the very first kill to come through. And now T1, well, they have a very good position. It's the diffuser dropped. It's an LMG for them in the corner, and Crazy Boy still right behind the sandbags.
They had a look at the sandbags in the tight corner. They weren't there. Nobody was present in the drone. Crazy Boy takes the head off of a man when that was all he could see. And the canisters swung around from the kitchen are once again gonna slow down Damwon Kia, who are once again finding themselves unfortunately stalled on the approach into the site itself. 30 seconds. And they're able to take one more. Fanxy with the close swing. Katsang suffers next. An impact just to try and cement. Nobody is getting close. But with the diffuser still cold on the far side in the corner of the stage, it's Woogieman who's gone for the long creep. But they're aware. 11 has that locked down. It's 10 seconds in a 1 versus 5 for an injured Katsang to see if he can find anything. But T1 with a flawless round to put them 1 round away from potential playoffs.
And what a statement they're currently making. T1, you have 3 rounds. 3 rounds to try and lock it off, to get the opportunity to make it to the playoffs. Are they going to be making it here? That's the question. They have 3 opportunities and they cycle through the sites with every single one they get. Laundry is yet once more unlocked. It was a close one. It came on the back of, locking off the sites time and time again. And it's a Guevara to get picked in for now, it seems like, as a tactical timeout is going to be called out. It's swapped out to a Clash. That might just be enough to stop T1 in their quick pace. Damwon Kia in their pace they're trying to achieve. And DK, of course, with a pick themselves as well to come through. It's going to be changing up the chemistry between the attack and the defense just slightly, but how is T1 going to be playing this? Are we again going to be seeing them locking off sections of the map with reinforcements as time goes on, as pressure increases? Because that is also something that could be punished, you dare to say, because if they then realize what's going on, just get someone a little bit closer, and as soon as you hear that reinforcement sound, you have the opportunity to lock off that kill.
I want to see some direct action from Damwon Kia. I want to see them try and throw themselves at T1 the same way that they were doing on their defense when they were in the early rounds, refusing to move. They wanted fights, they wanted aggression, they wanted heat, and they're a team that's capable of it. But here, when things have started to go a bit away from them and a bit awry, they found this caution has seeped into their game, which is fair if you're playing against a team where you're pulling all this intel. And the intel is hot, it's direct, it's everything that you need to know when you need to know it. T1 is playing against that game. Yeah. They're specifically making it a consistent guessing game of, we do not know what T1 have done. Our information in 20 seconds, 30 seconds is even more defunct than it usually is because T1 are taking huge risks. And huge risks don't always pay off. We saw that in the Dorms round when he mad dashed all the way across when the wall was already open on walk-in and was locked down because DK were applying aggression to the site behind their movements. That is what I want to see from them. That game that they're so capable of. Bring some of that heat.
T1 is making it very hard for them. As you said, their information quickly gets outdated. When the wall is open at 1 second of the round, you decide to go for the push, and at the moment you arrive, the wall has been locked off or is being locked off, and suddenly that whole push, well, that's just a couple of wasted seconds in that time. And now the Clash is on the board as well. Suddenly the pressure that came down from the main stairs the very first time we came here is going to be even more slowed down now. The CCE shield, just as the crowd control will be working out, hopefully, to see for T1. This is the round that they need to win. There is, of course, 3 more ones that they have the opportunity to. We mentioned it before. They need a full outright win if they want to make it to the playoffs, if they want to have the opportunity of playoffs. An overtime win would not be enough, and also would be so hurtful, you would dare to say.
Even in that previous round, the mad dash of the Maestro behind the sandbags, when the wall at that point, they probably, the exothermic, the first one, had gone off. There was an opening, there was an angle, and he, with one of the heftiest operators, ran his way through.
It's crossfire with shotguns here. Craig's got a couple wide and then one in security.
It's dangerous, it's a lock-in, but it's down to Damwon Kia to read that.
That's true. They need to read it, but PGH as well from the security is completely locked off. So with new Gemmers as well, they need to go through that one doorway or get a grenade from underneath Freezer, but that's not really an option because that's currently being watched as well. And the fact again, they're just giving away that utility for free.
No one's on site until now.
Yeah, Crazy Boy just back now. He's just going to lock it off again because they got rid of all the utility because it's not being challenged. And look at that. 4 members of T1 suddenly back in the site. Security completely locked off. I think they've read the fact that no one really seems to be coming down from the main window. So it's just 11 now on the top floor. And he's going to be playing a bit of a roam game here, trying to make their lives difficult. And he has that impact available. I'm not sure if APAC has been or have a rotation in it because that could be coming big at the end of it as well.
Yas, who has been such an integral driving force, is the one that we we want to see pop off here if Damwon Kia are going to have a hope at pulling this round a little bit more into their favor. Some of the openings start to come through above now, as obviously T1 has retaken the mantle of let's actually get into the site. They went with a lockdown last time and it came through just at the end. This time, the little bit of the loose thread that might punish them is 11. The grenades start to go towards the clash down on the pillar side, but no one's able to pick up the connection as they're popping open that connector wall. The drop down comes onto E-Box and they're going to see if they can sliver and slam their way round. An E1D pops off the top. The clash reverses, but you know where she is anyway. Yes! Finds the first against Crazy Boy, gives them the body balance. There is still the loose thread above, and PJH punishes through a close connection there. Katsang with the long angle. They're driving up the corridor. Coated gets dropped. The diffuser is cold. The clash is just round the corner.
Where's 11?
All three of them are stacked up.
11.
There's the spray. There's the swing. There's a response. There's a clash. There's a plant. Just popped it off. Yes! I said he needed to show up, and he finds the double at the end.
He does it right there, just when it's necessary most, because 11 was about to come across the corner. He was about to swing right upon them, picked up one, but wasn't able to find a diffuser, and yet another match point we will see. He got quite close. 11, if he was a little bit quicker on that flank, maybe even from the hatch itself, it would have been a successful round. Either way, T1 have the opportunity now. Bottom floor or bedrooms. And bedrooms it seems to become, yes it is. The one is being picked up, but might be 6 picked out. It's not that flash as well. We've seen quite a bit of flashes actually coming through, so the lock-in will be there. And DK, they need to fight back yet another round. 2 more rounds to make it to OT and crush the dreams of playoffs for T1.
2 more chances for T1, the T1 train, to pull in, or in fact leave, the current station of relegation and woes. Not really, it's with them, but for the metaphor that I'm painting, the train could leave the station with a direct line to playoffs and the chance of pulling up at the major. And for a team that has struggled so much, for a team that has had such a rough year,
Yeah.
I mean, imagine the scenes.
And mind you, you need to beat 6 other teams because there's 2 spots to be given away.
A lot of teams.
DK is one of those teams that will be there. So beating them now in a game where they also want to show what they've got, that's also a statement to them like, hey, if we will meet you in the playoffs, we will definitely give it our all, and you're going to be expecting more of this.
Fancy this time, the one that's bringing the Warden, as they're going to see if they can keep some eyes on any smoke plays that might come through. But to be fair, that's not really been the game that Damwon Kia has been playing. They've been more than happy to sort of structure themselves with aggressive holds in the final 20 seconds. And that's the problem that's sort of been striking that we've talked about a little bit, is they wait until the dying moments, they wait until they have some of that coordination before they go for the push itself. Fancy almost suffers, just screaming past satellite window, but the spray came through and they weren't quite able to get the connection. Here, though, look at this. Katsang is trying to drive the immediate pressure. This is what we wanted to see, DK.
Yeah, the pressure is definitely on. A lot of damage onto Fanxi. Rotated out of the armory, ran right into the higher window that Woogieman was covering, and I believe he's just closing off the rotation now. That's going inside the walk-in closet. There you have it. It's going to be putting up a little bit of extra pressure as Arakazi is getting an extra thermic placed on the wall right next to him. He's going to be putting some pressure down onto that hallway. Has to fall back to the next shield. This time around, though, no full rotation towards the attic. Just a small bit of an opening there to have some lines of sight. However, just a quick impact could be coming through from the side of Katsang. That's a big opening.
That's a big door.
It's a very big door. It's a double door. Making sure that they can fit through with two at the same time, I guess.
Well, they can. They
struggling to.
They can.
Oh. Well, there we go.
They can.
It is.
There it is. And a wide run out that came through as, yes, almost suffered from it at the bottom of White Stairs. They went bold, went aggressive, and tried to pull an integral part of the Damwon Kia machine out before it actually tried to roll into the site itself. Walk-in gets popped. There's still the gate that you've got to burn through, but that won't be a big problem, especially with the Flores on the board. I believe that was able to destroy the mute jammer that was close by, but they're actually going to slip it past. See if they can get the shield instead. Great play, great movement, and that forces Arakaze back from one shield to the next to no shield at all. Now they've got to sort of sit and wait and hope that some of the connections can come through elsewhere. They are keeping a keen eye underneath to make sure the rotation doesn't get punished, as 11 is still loose, and he's making a movement via Kitchen to see if he can cause some problems elsewhere.
Boogeyman is in a key position right here, has the opportunity to somewhat lock down the kids, and as Crazy Boy is the first to drop, Coded is getting himself into the corner where he can go for the plant. The question is, are they going to be able to respond to this on the side of T1? Boogeyman is getting a shot down himself as well. It's a 5-on-3 post-plant situation. 45 seconds on the clock. 11 coming in from the back right here. He's going to be able to pick up at least one kill before he gets punished, and it's just PGH left right now. He managed to find one, gets a second one as well, turns it into a 1v2, but he barely has any HP left. And there's one on the roof, and there's one all the way deep in the corner. He needs to find the perfect moment to strike here for both of them.
Well, there's a quick bout of movement here as he's just realized the diffuser is not where it was. The drone is going to give some of that game away. There's one on the satellite window, but the closer one was tucked in on the corner. Damwon Kia, one more round, and that is how the holds that they've tried to pop off are supposed to go. They made sure that the territory and the information that they had, they acted upon. The quick play towards the pressure at the top of Armory Stairs were the mistakes and the slowdowns that we saw them suffer before.
Yeah.
They have learned, and they have one more round to try and pull themselves to OT. T1 take their timeout. Sort of desperately needed right now. They just need to connect a couple more dots for the T1 train.
That's it. Just get the 7th dot connected to the other 6 you already have. And then Playoffs is yours. After such a difficult year for them, it would be at least a highlight to end off their competitive year with it. 10 seconds on their tactical timeout left. The pressure is on. They are so close. It's within arm's length. They just need to lock off their very final defense. And they have 3 sites to choose from, 4 even. And the question is, which one will it be? Laundry Supply, back to the bottom floor. They're not going for the tertiary sites. They're not going for that top floor. They're bringing it back down. And a clash is again on the board, but it's being 6-picked out as the Finca turns into a Flores to a Cade. Now, I can understand that choice. You want to make sure that the Thermite of Coated is not allowed to open up those walls that matter so much. Of course, the Maverick is on the board, but if they manage to get Woogieman somewhere, somehow, then this round should be T1's, because the amount of work that the Maverick has done over these past couple of rounds, just making these kill holes and the kills that came out of it, have been insane. So he's definitely carrying a big target on his back, Woogieman currently is. And T1, this is your final opportunity, your final shot at making it to the playoffs. You've already secured a point. You've already impressed all of us here and given us good hopes for the relegation tournament that is coming up. But we want to see more of you. We want to see you to go to the playoffs and show the best you have up there against APAC South, against the South Asian national champion and runner-up. And this is your final opportunity to try and go and qualify for it.
Yet again, with 3 reinforcements in pocket, they have an option to put some of the response pressure back down if they feel like they need to make a response. Yet again, they're playing a bit adrift of the site at first. They're going to see if they can try and catch that drone if it comes its way back through. They have a bit of time. However, they don't feel confident that that won't be a lot of attention paid towards a player who gets stronger the longer this goes on. The drone gets dropped for the first time. We've seen someone playing behind the elbow shield, a spot that was very often just sort of left.
Yeah, 2 ADSs and a shield were just set up there all the time, and never someone played behind it. And every single time, Yas was able to just freely take care of those pieces of utility. One of the rounds still turned out T1's way, but this time Arakazi is actually actively playing that shield, and he should take out the first of the RCEs on the board. That's important, because if Yas is not going to be able to get control of elbow, suddenly that removes a lot of the opportunities that DK have available to them. Rin puts up an air jab onto the back stairs, being afraid of a potential clash still being on the board as Yas brings in the second RCE. Is Arakazi where he sees it? He gets that shot as well, and as there's no one else to try and follow up on it, there's no way they can swing at it to try and stop it from happening.
Yes, he's going to see if he can set himself up a drone here, but with 1:30 left, they still have time to try and do some of the other busy work.
Nitro on Fanxi
to let this pressure. That's the thing. So Fanxi is going to see if he can play against this hatch if it gets opened up. Nobody's going for the swing as of yet. They're playing this cautiously. and with a bit of width. The concern on these long angles you talked about before that have opened up and put a bit of fear into the hearts, but T1 isn't actively playing against them. They are cautious, though, and they are concerned about them.
Ooh, very heavy take seemingly from the back here. Katsing defending from the angles and the potential flanks to come through. And as Yas is going to try yet once more to get rid of the shield, it's Arakazi that might actually, yep, they have it again, takes care of the RC, and that leaves only one left for Yas, who's been there the entire round right now, trying to at least find a bit of an impact. They have opened up the hatch. There is the opportunity to get a C4 through, but I think they want to keep that as a post-planned measure right here. Wall is being closed off. Yas has absolutely nothing to say about that shield, and ADSs have been taken care of. Red is at the side, manages to get it down, stays alive for somehow. There's 3 members right there around the corner. Red gets the kills. Katsang as well is all up to PGH now. 26 seconds. The playoffs rest in your hands. And it's Katsang to get it in the end. DK rushed the site, and they end it here. And there goes the dreams of T1 and making the playoffs. Overtime is on us. But the reason for T1 to win this game have evaporated.
Oh, it was close. Oh, it was close.
It was so close.
But, well...
Not that final round, but the rest of the...
The final round, no. The final round was a great play. It was aggression. It was the sort of gambit. It was the gamble that we wanted to see from them. The pace on the realization that the information had been pulled away from Blue, the let's throw ourselves into this fight, the E-box drop hatch whilst they were still pulling them back. That was the call. The active information was they're pulling back.
Oh, Rin.
And they just dropped. They went in.
Rin lived through this. 1 HP. I thought he'd get down because he went for the knife, but this is key. Just Rin out here. That double kill. Katsang able to get 2 as well. Suddenly the entirety of T1 dismantled. And now the pressure is off again. They can still get a win. Their 4th of the season. 2 OT wins that would be, and 2 regular wins. But it must hurt. It must hurt deeply that they have now missed their opportunity of making it to the playoffs. And now it's all up to Talon and Cyclops, who play each other later on. It's the very final game, I believe, of the season of APAC North, to decide who's going to be the final contestant.
Nobody's home. PJH, nobody's in those caravans, and he's going to sit there and wait to see if anybody does try to meet them. 11 is on the roam underneath it as well. Damwon Kia, they have a lot of energy about their play right now. They have a lot of momentum, and they're going to try and throw themselves into the 2-point position if they can get this opening attack after they've been able to thread the past 3 together. That puts them in a great stead to lock off this map on their defense round on the opposite side. T1, what we need to see now, I guess, is some of that camaraderie. Sure, playoffs may be, unfortunately, a wisp that has slipped through your fingers as you've taken a swipe towards it, but there is still the chance at locking off 2 points. There's still a chance at putting a bit of pressure back on, and that's a perfect way to open. Fanxi takes care of Yas, the player who has been such a drive, not only in this game, but in a lot of the ones that Damwon Kia have ended up calling wins.
Exothermic now coming out. Coated is fully aware that the angle will be opened up. You have to be careful, though, because there's nothing to lose anymore for T1 now. They might play even more aggressive than they did before. The fan is being taken care of as it makes a little bit of sound. Fangs is just waiting for an exothermic to be popped up onto the double wall. So he can try and trick it with the electric claw. The Artilla. Swingman again tries to open up a massive opening here in the side of the attic. It's Rin that accompanies him. It's Katsang to open up some extra rotations, and it's him and Kota to start moving. That's the electric claw to be placed down. That is also the exothermic. That is back in pocket of Kota because he didn't put it down in the end.
Now you're wondering so far if these connections that are being made are the ones that Damwon Kia could have popped before, but either way, Katsang's going to make sure that they go for the same hold that got them their successful take here on the top floor before. Opening up the attic rotation and taking full control here as they set themselves up, those flank drones. They still need that walk-in wall open. It's an integral part of making sure that nobody is playing around inside the tight space and corner and can just take the drop. That's another way. Throw a couple of frag grenades down to clear the claws, and hopefully anyone that might be just round in the close corner to throw another claw out, and it's popped, but Rin pops 1, 2. Crazy Boy is taken off the board. A double for Rin. They're driving their way through. They can't quite get the third as Arakaze steps up and gets a little bit of revenge for the previous round. Katsang suffers next. They're trying to find their way in via walk-in, and Arakaze's making sure everything is locked. 11 finds 1 more 2. PJH pre-fires the angle, and T1 are on map point once again.
Once again, they're a map point. This one, unfortunately, not as important as the one they had before. But they will want to lock it off. There's a bit of revenge for DK, taking away their chances of making it to the playoffs. One more round, all they need, and they're up to the attack yet once more. This time, DK, after 7 rounds in a row, they will be playing defense yet once again. And they'll go to the laundry and supply. Bottom floor, basement. And let's see how it will play out. See, the Thunderbird coming in is a bit of extra healing. Of course, there is always the 6-pick opportunity, but it's not like Thunderbird. Oh, okay. I was going to say, it's not like Thunderbird is such a hidden operator that it's important to 6-pick it in, like a Clash, for example, with Beer Kavera. But still, it's the Warden that gets 6-picked in. And it will be, again, to try and play off the back of potential flashbangs that get tossed in or smokes, because, as you said, they have been leading some of these executes.
T1, one more opportunity here to pull another win. It's an OT1, and it's still points. It's still a good advertisement. It's one of the conversations that we had, obviously, in EUL on a Monday show. Oh, no, that wasn't us. That was Spooky Replacements.
Yes, exactly.
We had the evening off.
Frankenstein.
Apparently, they called in a different group, or I just don't really remember much. It was a full moon out.
It's the B team.
But it's still an advertisement. It's still power and pressure for the team. It's great to build some synergy momentum, because one of the things about the regional leagues is, over in APAC, they're huge. There's so much that gets put into in terms of the prize pool and participation and representation. Yeah. It's all fantastic advertisement, and it's all fantastic games. And when you're up against a team from the same region, when you're up against a team from the same sort of setup, every game is one of those sort of advertisement games. Everyone is one of those adversary games of saying we are still a fighting team and force in Korea.
Yeah, definitely so. In T1, fully preparing now, of course, for the relegations that they would like to stay in. I mean, they got the invite into the league this year, and it took them a while to get going, but they're definitely a team to consider right now. And if you look at their results actually inside of the Korean Open, they're currently 4th place, right behind Talon, Mantis, and Damwon Kia. So they're basically best of the rest, 4 points loose of any of the other teams. So don't really have to worry too much from that front. Either way, T1 will want to lock off this game, this very final game, to put a stamp on their end of this year's season. As 11 is the first one to go down, but not to be killed. He will be held back up by the Adrenaline Surge.
This was the loose play that we saw 11 suffer last time they went for this take, and then 2 bodies were handed to Woogieman on the back of the stairs. Woogieman was able to get some, well, blood out of the fight, but knew he'd suffered enough and didn't want to have himself taken out just from that engagement. Thanks, he got the pickup. They still have some energy that they can try, and with the Finker heals, 11 should be fighting fit sooner rather than later. The rest of the way this round started to end was a C4 dropped up from the hatch itself, and you assume they're going to pay a little bit more awareness to that. Crazy Boy is opening from the middle and pulling back, so he has a little bit more space and safety for the movements here. They're being a bit more cautious about it. They're not entirely stacked. Coated is underneath, but Crazy Boy is still being cautious. They spread themselves a bit wider. Rin is tucked behind the shields. They now put their eyes towards the chance at breaking blue.
Coated inside of the Harry Potter area. There's the opportunity to swing with the shotgun, but as well with the SMG-11, multiple opportunities. And if someone will be to drop down that hatch, that is, oh, they now know that is going to be a scan, and Coated is forced to go a bit more aggressive. His position has been given away, goes through, and tries to get inside of the blue area. On the tarps right now, close around the corner. That ping has been given out, and he tries to rotate yet once more.
He's trying to find somewhere safe, but nowhere exists. The hatch was a fight as well. Woogie Man gets the first, drop down. He's round the corner. There's a body that's close to down. It's Woogie Man dropped but coated. Keeps them safe. Now suddenly, with only 18 seconds, a C4 loose thrown over the top and a shotgun locked close. Coated is able to at least keep himself alive. Round the corner, tucked off, dropped down. Crazy Boy swings and puts the pressure. They've got to try and stick this and hold the angle. Rin finds Crazy Boy over the top. Levin finds one more. It's a 2 versus Kia round. Damwon Kia just pulled themselves together in the last second. A great rotation on Elbow.
Yeah, great rotation to come through. That was eventually the kill that was necessary. And we go all the way to round 15 to decide who wins this game. A game where T1 was looking like they could be making it to the playoffs. Turn into, well, just the complete 15 rounds now to lock it off. A fitting end for their season, which had been rough on them. But a very final rough game, which they have the opportunity to win. And Laundry Supply will be yet once more the site they choose to go to. It's the site where they lost the opportunity for the playoffs. And it's the site where they now want to take revenge to DK and show that they can indeed win these games.
One more round. All the way, and I guess on a 3-3 opening half, you might have predicted it, but then it was a 6-3, and things looked a little bit slippy for Damwon Kia, who have since been able to step their way back into this. T1 just haven't quite been able to lock it off with the confidence that Damwon Kia have been able to have. T1 have struggled in that final close down. Sometimes they're sort of grasping and grabbing and able to pull plucky parts apart. They have one more hold, one more chance to see if they can keep a consistent lockdown here, and their last defense win opened with a swing round to take care of Yas before he could start doing damage.
Alrighty. DK, T1, give us all you got, every single one of you. This is the very final round of your seasons. Of course, DK still has the playoffs to come up right after this, but T1, you're just giving yourself off and showing what you've got right before the relegations. Ready, set. You're basically fourth. You're best of the rest in your own regional national league, so no need to worry there. Just need to make sure that they end the season with a high. And as Yas again trying to get rid of that shield, might be well aware now that Arakazi is playing it. It took them 2 rounds to get used to potential RC Retiros to come in, but they're definitely well aware now. And they are very well aware that a push could be coming in from the backstairs as well. This DK just gathering information for the last minute or so. And soon they'll start opening up these hatches.
That's it. Katsang is a solo player currently working around on the opposite side to draw some attention that Fanxi will be the one that meets their mantle and metal here. Yes, he's going to see if he can open up blue and cause some problems, but to be fair, the lockdown and the pullback was the biggest problem T1 suffered on their hold this time last time round. It was punished by quick feet and quick aggression led by Rin on the drop down through the E-box hatch. They probably won't go for the same sort of hold unless they are able to punish a similar mistake from T1, but T1 have shown that they can learn from things disconnecting. They've shown that they can bring a little bit extra, unfortunately for them. So have Damwon Kia, who are going for a steady clear. Fanxi suffers as the play round, waiting for the hatch to finally pop up, but that puts them in a bit of a tricky situation because he knows that they know where he is. Instead goes for the reinforcement on the swing hatch to make sure they don't have the clear entrance that they had before. They're doing a bit of this busybody work earlier as Arakaze is going to hold off for now. The electrification goes back round.
A good call, because that was last time opened up by a Hibana. Of course, that's not on the board right now, but there is still going to be the opportunity for it as Arakaze takes a gunfight onto Yas. There is the opportunity for him now to fall back, but surely they want to get rid of that utility first. And new Retiro drone is being brought in, but that one will not succeed. The 2 ADSs start to get wasted now, and the next flashbang comes in as well, so they need to lock it off now as he's fully flashed. And it starts to, all the pressure starts to come down.
All of that utility drops. Rin gets the call there, and we saw that connection wall get open too. Woogieman, he's going to start burning these angle holes. He's been able to punish people through so much, and Yas is the one that keeps the lockdown. Tries to swing around and pepper bullets, but 20 seconds, and he is needed elsewhere. A bit of damage done to a fair few T1 players, but it just takes a couple of bullets to connect for things to start going their favor. The canister pops, and Yas finds 11 through a couple of walls and holes. Coated goes down. Katsang gets one back. It's the diffuser. Cold and Fanxy locks it off on the corridor. It's a 2 versus 3. The shotgun pot round the corner. It's just Yas left. He cannot quite get the connection. The T1 train that Dez hopped on alongside me at least gets a win, at least gets some points, and has a positive end to a season that was tough, for lack of a lot of better words. But no playoffs for them, only 2 points. A bittersweet ending.
It is a bittersweet ending, and you see PGH, it means so much. It's a very rough year, and a singular round, a singular push is eventually what stopped their playoffs dreams from happening. And, you know, they won, but it's not the way they wanted to win. After a year, getting, as I said, in 18 games, only 3 points, they managed to really go on a roll, and they really managed to almost make it to the playoffs. And then suddenly you start believing again, you are capable of this. And while T1 was capable of it, they almost managed to make it, but unfortunately, just not. But before we toss it back to the analyst desk, we have a very quick ad break.